Well, folks, welcome to another one of the CARB 2020 Hall of Fame inductee videos. And today we've got Jewell Kidwell here sitting in with us. Jewell, congratulations, man, on being inducted into the CARB Hall of Fame.
I appreciate that. I never won much of anything, but I'm glad to have that. It's great. Yeah.
It really is a really unique thing in talking with a lot of racers around the Midwest. Here around the Kansas City area. Of course, we include Central Missouri, Springfield, and other areas around, but it's kind of unique to our area. There just aren't a lot of places that have a Hall of Fame.
No. And I always thought, I knew about the Hall of Fame. I was up at Olympic Stadium one night, maybe 1951 or something like that, and I saw these group of people over here. Some of them were dressed alike, and they all had notebooks. And so I asked the guy, who are those people? He said, those are the CARB boosters.
CARB boosters, the club.
Yeah. And I thought, boy, that's nice.
Yeah, it really is. It's a good deal. It just really helps preserve all of it for all the people that have been in and around racing for so long.
Some people can see that that's all done.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of something for future generations, I think, to kind of not live by, but be able to see how racing was.
Right.
At 8 or 9 years old, I think you probably kind of get this first, I don't want to call it infection, but you get this first bite of racing, as here in Sedalia at 8 or 9.
Yeah.
People here, in the neighborhood you lived in then, would open their homes for racers during the fair.
That's right. Everybody in town, at the time, there wasn't any motels. And at the time, everybody making a few extra bucks renting rooms all over Sedalia. And there was some of them around where I lived. So I went to the movies one night, the Fox Theater, Liberty Theater, one or the other. And I came home about 9:30, and I seen all these race cars sitting around. Man, you know what I did? I went and got in them.
I'm going to tell you something. I think I may have sat in my first race car yesterday.
Is that right?
At the World of Wheels. Wesley Smith, the Helms, had their sprint car down there. He was the, that's not right. Anyway, he was the Power Eye Valley champion this year at Valley Speedway in Grand Valley. But I sat in their car, and gosh, I never felt so cramped in all my life.
Yep.
I don't think I've got claustrophobia.
Well,
but man, that was tight.
You should have sat in my 38 Ford with an inch-and-a-half rope as a seatbelt.
Inch-and-a-half rope as a seatbelt.
Al Hall helped me, when we started the CMRA. He helped me with the car, and he also started flagging. And I'd get in it, and he'd tie me in it, sir. And I got a picture around here somewhere. I was
going to say they just put a knot on the other end, and that was it.
Then the next car I drove, they had a military belt. Looked like a cartridge belt, and it was better. But I didn't have a helmet. I had a helmet liner from the Army, which was plastic. I shouldn't be here.
But these cars around in the neighborhood, you just kind of went around and started sitting in them things.
Until my mom saw me. Get out of that car. But I tell you what, 2 or 3 years I did that. Then I guess they start staying out west or something. There was as many of them came around the neighborhood.
To this day, they still do that same thing up in Knoxville.
Do they? Oh, I know it. My son goes up. One of my sons goes up there every year.
Because I stay with the family up there every year. Not every year. When I go, I stay with the family up there.
He's got a gang he goes with, and they're pretty well set in seats and all that stuff. And every time he goes up there, Bob Baker asks me how I'm doing. He run races out here for a while, and I work for him.
At 13. Bob Ward and his Hollywood Aces.
That's correct.
They come to town, and I presume it's part of the fair.
Yes.
And you get involved in that. How did that happen?
Well, I was walking down the alley, probably going to the dime store, and I see this big bus sitting there, It looked like some politician or something, but it said Bob Ward and his Hollywood Aces. And there were some people on the front porch there. This guy looks down at me and says, "Hey, you want a job?" I said, "Sure."
Yeah.
My first job, I worked for Johnny Rector, motorcycle racer.
Yeah.
I'd sell knee-high pop and candy bars, and he'd win all the races.
Yeah.
I was 10 maybe then.
That's how he supported his racing habit, huh?
Yeah, I can't remember what he paid me, probably 50 cents.
But you start working for Bob, and of course this there again gets you around that racing atmosphere at the fair.
What I did was put banners, posters in the windows of all the stores.
All the stores down.
First year I worked for Sweeney in '53. Me and Al put them here. Jeff said he took them all.
Oh, did you really?
I still wish I had some of them.
Yeah, no kidding.
Pretty.
Yeah. Boy,
but that was a job I worked with him. He told me, "Come up here Saturday morning. You can ride out the fair with me." But I had to get in back of his old panel truck, which was full of jacks and chains. But I got in there, and then when he stopped, shut the engine off, I was right there in the middle, right behind the race judges stand.
Oh, really?
So I watched everything they did, and I started getting this feeling of show business. This stuff is good.
Yeah.
And Lucky Teeters was there. He was well known as the world's greatest stuntman.
Okay.
And he did all kinds of stuff, ramp to ramp jumps, and they laid this big leather pad down on the ground, and they'd pull him in it, and then he'd let go and roll, and everybody thought he's dead.
Yeah, go up and hit the guardrail.
The announcer said, he said, "They're going 85 miles an hour." Yeah, maybe 48. I learned a lot that day about show business.
Yeah.
And
entertainment.
all they did, things they did.
Yeah.
Well, he was a nice guy.
You also told me another story. Was that the same guy, this guy that did the thrill shows? The same guy that rode through the block of ice or whatever you were talking about?
Yeah, they had a guy, they call it the wall of ice. And that guy'd come down the track probably 45 miles an hour.
In a car?
Yeah.
Okay.
And of course they'd say he was going 80 or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean a real wall of ice. I mean it's like 400-pound blocks thick and about 7 feet tall.
Oh, wow.
And when he hit that sucker, I mean, ice and pieces of the car and everything else just flew everywhere.
It just flew everywhere.
But he lived through it.
Yeah.
And one night I went to Capitol Speedway in Jeff City where I was working, and he said, "We got a thrill guy here tonight." And I said, "Really?" "Yeah." He said, "He's going to do the block of ice deal." I said, "Really? Where's it at?" So he showed me, and here it was. It's about that tall, and a couple 100 pounds. It was, I could have done it. I mean, after watching that guy back then do it.
Yeah. This one was only like a foot thick.
Yeah. Well, it was 200 block.
Oh, okay.
But it wasn't 3 foot tall, maybe. Anyway, a lot of ice flew around. Yeah. That's what they was interested in.
Yeah, that was the main objective, to make stuff flew around.
As far as show business, I worked for Al Sweeney 30 years, and I learned show business. Racing, everything to do with that guy. I mean, that guy taught
a showman.
He taught me a ton of.
Yeah.
And I worked for him 30 years.
Okay, we're going to talk about him in a minute, so don't get too far ahead of me, okay?
I told you I got to shut up.
Yeah, don't get too far ahead of me. Let's talk a little bit about your racing career, though. Finally, with all this exposure to racing, you finally decide to kind of put it into motion in that you decide that you were going to start racing. Tell us about how that...
I was, it's interesting, and the stuff was interesting. So I get this today Democrat, and it says, jalopy race, Syracuse, Missouri, on Sunday afternoon. I think it was the 4th of July, 1950. And I said, man, I got to go see this. Well, they had a bunch of 2 doors, 4 doors, just junk, and it was a strange thing. The X out there, I've driven on a lot of figure 8 tracks, and the X, instead of just smooth, he had it dug out. So when they come to that X, they actually went down, and some of them had hit the bank on the other side, the batteries fly out. I mean, it just tore everything to pieces. So I had a kid that built this 38 Ford Coupe, and then he got a job driving with the McCown brothers. They had a 32 Ford pickup, red. first truck race.
The first truck race in the area.
So he had a chance to drive that, and so then I bought that old car for him for $200.
Uh-huh.
It had roll bars and everything in it, you know.
Uh-huh.
So I went race. The second race I was down there, and we had about 4 or 5. And then, well, Glenn Jones, the guy that promoted it, he promoted it because he said he'd been reading about all these races out in Carolina.
Yeah.
And all that, so he decided to have one. Now his real job was he had donkey baseball.
Yes.
He had about a dozen donkeys.
Uh-huh.
He'd go around to these ball fields, including today out here, and you hit the ball, jump on a donkey, and go to first. You had to do that. You had to ride on them.
Yeah.
So that was his man. But anyway, we had this first race, $250 to win. And Philip Ward was a guy that had he was a good mechanic when he had a place over on 16th Street.
Uh-huh.
And he started it. It was a super coupe. I mean, looked like brand new. So these things bounced, tore up, rolled over, and everybody dropped out but him. So here he is. So he comes around. The guys with him, they run over there and stopped him, and old Glenn Jones was there. And they said, well, I guess he won. He said, if you want that $250, you're going to have to finish 50 laps.
Okay.
He went around there 9 times and got that $250.
Oh, really?
Now, second place was nothing. But I don't know whether anyone won any money down there because nobody ever offered me any.
Yeah.
But I got a story to tell you.
Okay, go ahead.
This track down there, this old 38 coupe had bad brakes. My brother always towed me to the traps with a log chain. He had to go to Iowa. He had a truck and he hauled cedar posts and he'd go up there to the cattle sales and stuff, sell on posts. So he couldn't be there. So I couldn't find anybody to take me down there.
Uh-huh.
I drove it down there. It's about 24 miles, a couple miles on the other side of Syracuse.
Uh-huh.
Okay. We had a hill down there called Jesse James Hill, and everybody swore that he robbed a train off that bluff.
Oh, really?
Okay, it was about, I don't know, 45, 35 degree angle. So I was going, because I was late, and boy, I lead-footed up that thing, and I went out. I was going to pass this guy, and here's this dude coming at me. The only thing I could do was go to the right of him and pass him.
Uh-huh.
Bunch of rocks.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, but I couldn't stop, so I just passed him and kept going. And then I drove it home. I was waiting for State Patrol or somebody to get me that nobody ever did. So
nobody was out there.
I was lucky. That's one of the best rides I ever took.
In 1950, your oval racing career starts out after this figure eight. About how many figure eights did you run, do you know?
Drove about 6 or 8 of them in Syracuse, and they've got the Sedalia Speedway out here, 28th and Ingram, and the Siegel boys had it, Newt Siegel and Vince Siegel, and his mother Mary, and they owned the bus company. Okay. He painted a number on that little car he had with a paintbrush. 276.
276.
That was their phone number at the bus company.
Little advertising.
We locked them rear engine. We took gears out of them and welded them shut, and you got 2-wheel drive. And it had a camshaft, it had high compression heads, it had 2 carburetors, and that little devil would really fly.
Yeah.
So the best night was I was up to Riverside Stadium in Kansas City.
That's just what I was going to ask you.
Okay, go ahead.
No, that's okay. Go ahead. I was just going to ask you. Well, you started this in 1950.
Right.
And then this deal in 1952 was when you were up at Riverside.
Yeah, right. And then right after that, I'll get into it with how we started the CMRA.
Yeah.
I got up there and had 52 cars. Now, that guy that run that place,
Ed Young.
He had us bring up our CMRA cars, and they all had them coupes with the exhaust sticking out the trunk. Good looking cars. Okay, they had them, but we had them that tall. And anyway, I started 11th in the heat race, got 2nd, 3rd in the trophy dash. I had 24 cars in feature, and I got 3rd. So that's my
That was your racing
That
career.
was my NASCAR trophy.
your Super Bowl or whatever
Right.
of racing for
Right
you.
after that, Sweet Springs built this big 3/8 or half mile.
Uh-huh.
Dusty. The whole wind field was trees.
Uh-huh.
And they had a bunch of cars there. And Crockett Thomas and Vince had bought this car from that mechanic I told you about, and had a Lincoln engine in it.
Uh-huh.
So Crockett was a heck of a driver. And so we got over there at Sweet Springs, and he said, "You know, we can run 1-2 over here."
Uh-huh.
I said, "You think so?" "Oh yeah." I said, "You're 1 and I'm 2." He said, "Oh yeah." And I said,
Not going.
Well, I couldn't catch him, and then on the white flag, it was so hot, I kept going. That's second place. So I just got to the finish line, and the oil breather, which is in front of the dash, boom! That thing went 50 feet in the air. And so I just stopped. But the next day he called me up and he said, "You fried 3 pistons." I said, "Oh, really?" And he said, "Yeah, you don't drive this anymore." But he never did drive. He never did fix it.
Yeah.
So
that was the end of it.
yeah, and then when they built the little quarter mile at Sweet Springs, why, it was really a super nice little track. Guy here that ran a plumbing company, he had this beat up old 33 car, and he wanted to know if I'd drive it for him next Sunday. Well, really, I'd seen the thing and I knew it was junk, but it was racing. So I got in that thing for my last race, and on the 3rd lap, right front springle broke off, and I went sailing down over the bank, no problems. The wheel came off. That was the end of it.
That was it.
And then on.
That might have been a clue to there might be time to call it a career.
All officiating as we started at CMRA.
I was going to say, in 1952 as well, is about the time when you become really deeply involved in the Central Missouri Racing Association.
Right.
And you were one of the early founders of that.
Right.
And what part did you play in the founding of the CMRA?
The first year I didn't play any part. Then the second year, we had some local businessmen and stuff. They must have thought this is a piece of junk deal. So they all quit. And so we re-elected officers, and I got elected vice president.
Okay.
But then Al was, he was secretary treasurer, and he didn't want to do it anymore. So I see in 54, he said, "I want you to take this job." So I did, and I had that job until we quit.
Now, when you say Al, who are we talking about? Al
Hall.
Al Hall.
He was our first flagman. He helped me with my car. We spent 30 years together out on that track. He's a super guy. He passed away in 2012. And I'm telling you, he helped me. I helped him. I had a Hudson Hornet. He had an old Buick. I'd take my car one night. He'd take his car the next night. Back then, on the Missouri maps, they had a little deal called, said speed limit, R and S. So it took me a while to figure that out, but finally I did. Reasonable and safe. So that was 85.
Reasonable and safe.
Yeah, so that was 85 mile an hour for us. And when we got into 5 nights a week, boy, I'm telling you, when I'd go home, I had a job. I worked for Montgomery Ward 30 years. And I'd go home at night, I'd do all the points and everything, get everything up to date, and then come home the next night and take off. Wherever.
You had many hats on in this CM. I can't even say it.
Man, what happened was whatever I wanted, they let me do it.
Yeah.
Because I wanted the cars painted neatly. I wanted numbers neatly. I wanted to have a nickname on the car. We did all kinds of stuff, and it grew up. Like I say, we had them. We had the old junk cars that we used to have backup races and pie races and shoe races and all this stuff, and then it started progressing, and I just got them to get their uniforms, and I just did everything I could.
Make it more professional. Right,
and they all, Roy Hibbert, he came to me, we had a little reunion here, and he said, there's always got problems, that's all they want to talk to you about. But he came to me out there at Katie's barbecue, and he said, "Jewell, I want you to know that we really appreciated you."
Yeah, I was going to say.
So that was my job, to make the CMRA the best there is. Al Sweeney says the best racing association he ever seen.
I'll be darned.
Yeah.
Really, and he'd worked with a lot of them.
Oh God, yeah. Them old junk cars way back when, Jimmy Wilburn.
Yeah.
Gus Strader, all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I also, while we're talking about the CMRA, I want you to tell me about the Versailles track. I think it had kind of a unique, well, let's just call it a unique track. They talk about some tracks having character. This one had more than character.
Yeah, the ball diamond is right on Highway 5 there in 52.
Uh-huh.
And big grandstand. And they put this track on this ball diamond. Now, I don't think 5 went through there at the time because they moved it out across the street after a couple of years. But what you would do, you'd come up the back stretch, you'd go uphill, and you'd come up and you'd turn at third base.
Yeah.
You run over the pitcher's mound. Then first base, you go down. They used to have a little fair kind of campgrounds down there.
Yeah.
They had this little red bridge. And we go down there, and it had it was fairly deep, no water in it, but 2 go across.
Only 2 cars could cross the bridge.
The rest of them took that ditch.
Really?
Then at the end, it was like an egg. Then we go back up. I turned over down there one night, went in probably 4 times.
Did you really? This was back when you were racing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had a big knot right here.
Yeah.
That's all.
Well, when you turned over, were you in the ditch or did you go over the bridge?
No,
or neither?
No, this was when they moved it over across the street.
Oh.
And they still use the grandstand, but cars are over here on a flat area.
Yeah.
And the first turn, I lined up there. I'm going to show you a picture in a few minutes. I was lined up there on the front row outside, and this guy had this big old sedan painted silver.
Uh-huh.
And he's on the inside, and I said, I got to beat that guy to the first turn. So I did. I sailed down there, but I didn't quite make it, and then he hit me.
Uh-huh.
Hit the boom, boom, boom. Now, let me tell you about this car, which I found out later after doing a little studying. That car he had was a 1936 Chrysler Airflow.
Uh-huh.
You know what that is? That car was way ahead of its time.
Yeah.
Way ahead. And that car would be worth thousands if you had it today.
Had it today,
oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys were out there running them into each
there
other.
He is driving the thing.
The CMRA continued to grow as racing progressed.
Right.
I mean, let's face it, you guys, like you say, started out with the jalopies, then you went to the coupes,
Yeah.
and then, of course, the super modifieds came along.
Well, we called them modified.
Yeah.
We had them square boxes on the back.
On the tanks or whatever they were, yeah.
Then we went to super modified with their tails on them.
Yeah, but
Then sprint cars.
I was going to say, and then sprint cars, but as this progressed, there were times when you guys were running 5 nights a week.
Yeah, we did.
That's kind of crazy.
In the mid-50s, we ran 5 nights a week. Boonville had a track. It really didn't last that long. It was right off of I-70 on 5. You go down a hill into timber. They cut this thing out of timber.
Oh, really?
I mean, it just lasted like a half a year, I believe.
What were the other 4 tracks at Boonville and what else?
Okay, we had Sweet Springs, Sedalia, Capital City, and Jeff City, and Mobley.
Moberly?
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, that's not the track that's up there now.
No, it
either.
isn't. It's on 36 Highway. Is
Oh, I don't know.
Anyway, they say it's a nice track.
Oh, the new one.
Yeah.
It is a very nice track.
Yeah,
High banked,
I
pretty nice place. Just makes you wonder how some of those aren't operating. Maybe they need an old guy like you to.
When I start scoring, it's not the way you do it.
Yeah.
So we was growing, and I'd stand out there and track with Al, and I'd keep the first 8 places. The heats wasn't no problem. First 8 places in the feature, I'd just watch them. And when if one of them guys dropped out, I moved up the other guy. So when it was over, I had 8 places, but I didn't know anything about the rest
Didn't
of
know
them.
about after 8.
So I run into Joe Bush, who is a Kansas City man, and he worked for Al Sweeney. He ran the clock. Okay, he also sold.
Excuse me. I never have understand that. What did the clock have to do with it?
Oh, time trials.
Oh, for time trial.
Yeah,
Okay,
time
I was going to say, but not the races.
And we give them all 2 times.
Yeah. Okay, I got you now.
we I got to talking to him about Marsburg one night, and I said, "How in the heck to keep track of these cars?" And I was doing it like I was telling you. He said, "No, that's not the way you do it." He said, "It's column scoring, top to bottom."
Yeah. That's still the way they do it.
I
Hasn't
started
changed.
doing that, and I had calls from everywhere.
Yeah.
I worked up Granite City, Illinois, for 5 nights, and I couldn't come home at 5 and go to work, so I told him.
Yeah.
Told old Rouse Kiesling, he was running Jeff City and that. And I said, "That's it, I can't come back here anymore." So the next week it cost him about $1,600, and the week after that it cost him about $3,000. He called me up and he said, I'll bring you up here in an airplane. I can't afford all this paying double and all that stuff."
Yeah.
See, that's what it is. I signed the cars in, I scored the races, I paid them, and my sheets is just right here like that. If they had any bitches,
you showed them where it was written down.
They hardly ever. Yeah. And out here at Fairgrounds one time, you remember Al Murray?
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
He was a clown. But anyway, we was running a 100-mile race. He got lapped. So they come down through there, and he come in the half-mile track, and he come around, and he went. He thought I was going to put him down twice. So at the payoff, he was raising hell out there. And now listen, they say I'm 14th, and I know I was 6th or something. He just always raised heck. Yeah. So I said, "Come here, Al." I said, "I saw what you did." I said, "I could have took you out of that race.
You could have docked him another lap.
You got some money coming, but I could have docked you for doing that." Well, he said, "Well, let me have my money. I'm going." He's a character. I liked him.
Yeah.
I liked all of them.
Yeah. Racers will try lots of stuff. Let's just leave it at that.
That's right.
Let's just leave it at that.
That's right.
1954 also kind of marks another milestone for you as you start working with Al Sweeney, working at a lot of the state fair speedway races.
Right.
And you were telling me on the phone, of course I remember back in those times, these kind of crowds were not unusual, but you were saying that they'd have 12 or 13,000 people up there.
Out here we had the old grandstand plus the bleachers.
Yes, I remember that.
4,000 people.
I used to sit in the
4,000
in the bleachers.
Okay. Yeah, and then the 100-mile stock car race, that'd be 15,000.
Yeah, I've probably been to at least maybe 3 or 4 of those 100-milers.
He came over to Marshall one Sunday night, and he came up there and introduced himself at the judges' stand, and I said hello to him. And Al said hello to him. And after a while, he stood there while I scored a few races. He went up there and started talking about his fair races. That was in 1954. No, 53. It was 53. And so we started home that night, and Al was driving, and we got about halfway from Marshall, like the junction. And he said, "You know why he was over here?" Well, he's pushing his fair races, pep up the crowd, get out there and buy a ticket. He said, he came over there to watch you.
Oh, really?
And he wants you to work for him. 30 years.
30 years worked with Al Sweeney.
Right.
Wow. Well, and like I say, this is big time stuff. Can you tell us some of the associations and whatever that he was associated with that you worked with also?
Al and his friend, a good friend, it was his partner actually. He had 15 state fairs.
Yeah.
And he'd take half of them state fairs. The other guy, Gene Van Winkle, super nice guy.
Yeah.
And he'd take the other half.
15.
That's how it worked out. Yeah.
15.
But I'm gonna tell you something. He had a contract out here. He got 10% of every gate.
Yeah.
And he got when the crowd went 75, 35, or 75, 35. He'd get 75% of that grandstand up to $75,000.
Oh, really?
Then it'd go back. State get to 75, and he gets he made tons of money.
Yeah.
And a few years into it, a guy got to be fair secretary out there. Boy, he put a stop to all that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was an old DeSoto car dealer down here.
You're talking about here in Sedalia, he stopped that.
And boy, he changed them contracts, and Sweeney never got that money like that anymore.
Anymore after that.
Yeah. But
That was big time money back then too. I mean,
Yeah.
75 grand.
Yeah,
That's a lot of money.
75%.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it switched back. Scored a 100-lap stock car race for National Speedways at the Ozark National Fair. I worked 4 years up the Iowa State Fair, and we had one still date up there in the summertime, and it was 300 laps. Now the normal fair race, the stock cars, is 250. And that black dirt up there, boy, it's just black. We were able to stop them guys that come in and take their glasses off. They look like them little things running around. Raccoons.
Yeah.
They look like raccoons. It's just black.
Yeah, except for little white spots.
Yeah, well, they had their goggles. But yeah. And then I worked, let's see, they had the Mexico County Fair up there, the old horse track. Worked that one for the CMRA. And then I went to, let's see, a Scotland County Fair up there north. And had a big old boy. He rode the tractor and graded that track, and he was in charge. John Hughes went with me, the announcer, and I met Woody Brinkman up there. Yeah. And Woody flagged, I scored, and John, liked me.
Yeah.
He was a good one. And so they had this big argument. They're supposed to have 24 cars, and we had 16. He didn't like that. But Woody, they finally smoothed it over. Evidently, John didn't get the message. But we ran the race. John Mickey's one of the drivers from Keokuk, and him and Ramo had this race.
Put a show on.
They did. Old John Mickey get him, then here come what's to do, Rainbow. And they kept the crowd happy.
But that had
Scott, anyway, when the race is over and I'm getting my lap seats ready, we're going down there where they paid them. And John Hughes says, "Get that shirt off." I said, "What?" He said, "Get that shirt off. These people are mad. They're going to beat us up." But John always carried a little green jug that had gin and lemonade or something.
Yeah.
I said, "I ain't taking his shirt off." He said, "Gold IMC shirt."
Yeah, I remember those.
Yeah, and so we paid them, and everybody's happy and all that stuff. So I got to look around for John, and they told me, "Well, he's gone." I said, "Gone? What do you mean gone?" He said that he went downtown with some guys to this bar. He said it's on the square and it's down in a basement. So I go down and drive, there it is. So I go in there, and here's old John drinking something. And on the bar, right next to him was a midget that evidently was with the carnival out there at that fair. And they were having a great old time. I said, "We got to go, John." So I went home pretty fast, and he'd pass out, and I go around the curve, and he'd hit his head over the glass. As soon as he hit his head, he'd go, "Down them smoke paths." He announced some races all the way home. Now, don't get me wrong now. What I did with the CMRA, all these guys that were members, everybody had a hand in that. They painted their cars, they got uniforms, they did everything that we should do. And it's all part of them too, not just me.
Yeah, absolutely. For something like that to be that successful for that long, it had to have everybody's participation. Another thing that you have done, if I remember right, you told me that you have flagged over 70 races. You were the flagman for over 70 races.
Yeah, that was in between the fair and all the other tracks. Al got hit up here at Warrensburg and broke his leg, so I had to do it. Yeah,
and like you say, I don't think we mentioned this, but during this time, you guys were all flagging on the track. There was no flag stands or nothing.
Oh yeah. When we had a really big crowd out here on Memorial Day, I'd see how close I could get to them. That kind of made my kids mad.
I bet, because that is some crazy stuff.
You can't go out there and be afraid of them.
Yeah.
When I went out there, it was just something that like home.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and probably doing it as long. If you did 70 races, you probably got to know a lot of the drivers and guys and what their tendencies were.
I met hundreds of drivers. Some of them didn't have the money to go forward. Some of them were really good, like Roy Hibbert and Ken Taylor.
Yes.
They came down to Boonville when we was running there, and they had this nice looking coupe, about a 39 coupe, painted white, and they had a number 55. So they signed in, and back then it was $1.50.
Yeah.
Anyway, they signed in, so then I say, which one of you guys gonna drive this car? And they both went, yes. So I think Roy drove it the first night. But they kind of switched off, but guys like Howard Douglas over at Slater, I think his name was Howard, he had a big company over there, and he built a car for Kenneth. Kenneth went to that car. Then Roy started driving these other cars. It's that 300 Bowling Alley car, and that 26. Boy, that was the hot one.
Yeah.
But he's a heck of a driver.
Yeah.
But they started out together.
Yeah, I'll be darned.
And some of these guys, you know, they didn't last, and I could tell that they couldn't do it, and they'd get in the way out there and stuff like that. But they all tried.
Yeah. What might have been or could have been the biggest race you ever flagged?
Well, that would be the longest race I ever flagged was that one I told you about, the Iowa State Fair.
Yeah.
And I think that was still date, which means it wasn't no fair or nothing. Just, and 300 laps.
300 laps.
Yeah.
No stop for a drink of water?
Well, I did have some water, on those races, but it's some of the guys don't understand, you know, I could have 4 number 7s or 3 number 1s.
Yeah.
I had abbreviations for those.
Yeah.
And when they get lapped, I put a circle around them.
Oh.
Then you go back until when they got lapped.
Yeah.
If the cars are coming down and number 50 is the last car, they come by the next lap, he's not there, then he comes by the next lap, he's in 4th place.
Yeah.
So you circle.
Yeah.
Put a circle around him.
Plus, you also, I think you told me earlier before we started the interview that also you would also score on the infield. Now, is this what you're talking about? What you were doing here was scoring on the infield? Or are you talking about flagging, trying to keep track of the cars?
Oh, about this, what I was telling you about lapping and stuff? Yeah, I was on the inside of the track. But I stood, like I say, Marshall's, we stood on the track together. And he always said, you watch my back.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And but then they built us a judges stand. But Warrensburg that night, they didn't have a judges stand. And we was running the feature, Joe Dennis. He was leading the feature, and they had a young rookie there, and Joe comes around, and this guy, he went toward the fence outside, so Joe said, well, I'll get him on the inside. The guy came straight down, and Joe had to try to go around him, and he clipped out. And so Al knocked him down. So Al got up, and he said, how many more laps? And I said, 7. So 7 laps went by, and he checkered flag, and he started walking over toward me, and he was limping. He just tossed them flags up in the air. He said, they're all yours.
That's it.
The rest of that year, that was in April, and then we quit in late October.
Yeah.
We used to run March, we run a 50, 75, 100 lapper.
Oh my gosh.
Now the weather's so crazy. I don't know whether I could do that again or not, but we used to do that.
We've got several tracks around Kansas City that still run up into late October.
Yeah.
And I was thinking last year we had one track that had a November race.
Lakeside Speedway?
No, you know, Lakeside was flooded last year. So
yeah, I know it. I've seen some pictures on TV.
Yeah. No, it wasn't Lakeside.
I guess they're coming along with that.
They are coming along with it. They've got a lot of construction. I come down I-70 and I've seen that there's some construction going there on the dirt track. I don't know what it is, but
I scored. In fact, I think they opened the track, or it was the first night race. I forget which, but I scored 100 lap there for National Speedways.
For National Speedway.
Or the dirt one.
Yeah.
And I had come. Once in a while, I'd go up there and not working, and I'd watch that Bivens.
Terry Bivens.
That other guy.
You know he's still racing?
Really?
Terry Bivens is still racing.
We got an old boy here in town. It's Bob's mechanic shack down here by the underpass there on Washington. And he still got his old late model car, and he gets lapped 3 times, but he keeps coming back.
Yeah,
he's like 78 or 9.
Well, and I'm trying to remember the other Sedalia driver that races at CMS, Ernie Walker.
Ernie Walker's still driving?
I don't think he raced last year.
Yeah.
But now I think the year before Ernie still raced.
Ernie, you know, he put in a lot of 4th of July parades and stuff like that. He's always wanted to have a parade.
Yeah.
I know him.
Also, another astounding figure. I mean, I get around to a lot of races, but I don't think I've got this many. Jewell, you told me the other day when I talked to you that you think that you have either scored, flagged, or were at over 2,000 races in your lifetime.
Probably. One time I used to keep track of it because I had all the pay sheets. I'd save them. And I always went over double check them every week for points. Russell Hibbert one time says, I won that championship. You like 2 or 3? Yeah, you cheated me, but he was pulling my leg. He didn't. He won it one year too.
Yeah.
Roy did too.
Yeah.
But from 1950 to 1983, I think what I gave you said it had 20 tracks on it, but I think it was really like 26.
Yeah.
I mean, my son Randy down in Springfield, he said, "You took me to a race in Rolla, a sprint car race." I said, "Really?"
Really?
But anyway, yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah. Well, you sound like me. They're all kind of starting to run together.
The thing about it is, I guess all them people, all my friends, they couldn't figure out how I was staying alive.
Well, Jewell, with all of these memories that you've had, I mean, 2,000 races, and flagman, scorer, racer. I mean, it sounds like you did just whatever somebody needed done. But
yeah, we did. I did. As far as we started the Central Missouri Racing Association in 1951, and we got a non-profit organization through Missouri in '52, spring of '52.
Yeah,
that's when, and when we I think '72 is when we quit. We was taking care of Marshall over here, and I think Woody Carpenter, he bought it, see, and then he comes to me, he said, "I ain't guaranteeing no money, and I ain't doing this," and I said, "Bye." So I was still working at Jeff City and the fairs and all that stuff.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, what of all of this career that you've had, what to you is the moment that stands out to you?
Well,
a favorite memory, I guess, is what we'll call it. How's that?
The moment is all these drivers and all these people and all these little girls in the back seat of the cars and come through the pit gate. All those people, they were just, racing people are different.
Yeah.
And drivers, I was in it long enough, I can look at a driver's eye.
Yeah.
And he could tell you what he wants. He's wanting to get out there and race.
Yeah.
So yeah, all those, but probably what I helped do was bring the CMR Racing Association from jalopies up to beautiful sprint cars. Everybody was painted nice, the numbers were good, everybody had race uniforms. When we did that, boy, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
And then we'd run out, I probably worked for 10 or 12 different promoters out here at the fairgrounds. But the CMRA actually did all the work. I'd call them up and I'd say, "Hey, you got a job?"
Yeah.
A couple of weeks. And Chet Dooley and a bunch of Marshall that work with us, he's passed away. But we had a good crew, and we'd go out there and do the same thing we did every night.
Yeah.
Fast.
Yeah.
I wanted them races over at 10 o'clock.
No, boy, I'll tell you, I miss that. I miss that. I mean, I understand what tracks are doing nowadays with so many classes. It puts more people in the stands.
Yeah.
No doubt about
Randy
it. But
told me that airport speedway down in Springfield, they start racing at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah, you're talking about Springfield Raceway.
Yeah.
It's right out by the airport.
Yeah. That's it, airport or what they're called.
Yeah.
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 They start at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Probably hot laps. Generally speaking, the racing usually starts around 7, because I was just down there like 4 times last year. But yeah, they get through it. It's a well-run program. It really is.
I tell you, when I went out on that track and I had ways I'd signal them cars, everybody'd go right where I put them. That's right. Old Jack Landberg wrote that big story about it. Yes, his star.
I was going to say, I'm just coming to that. You're right here with me, okay?
Okay. I talk too much.
In 1974, Jack Lindbergh of the Kansas City Star wrote that you were El Matador Kidwell.
El Matador Kidwell.
Cars, not bulls.
That's right, cars, not bulls.
Sounds like a fitting tribute to the man that used to dodge cars on and off the track as you did.
I'll show it to you in a minute.
Flagging races, scoring on the infield, and all I can say is, "Olé!" to Kidwell.
Well, those were the best years of my life. From the first time down here at the old Liberty Theater when I was about 7 or 8 years old, I used to go to the movies. They'd have these cereals. You know, you remember cereals?
Oh, absolutely.
12, 15.
Had to go every week, man, to find out what happened.
They had a cereal called Burn 'em Up Barnes.
Burn 'em Up Barnes.
Yes, sir. And he was a race driver.
Oh, really?
And he'd be driving on that track racing away, and he was a policeman. They'd call him on his. They'd say, "Hey, so." Well, he'd get off that track and chase the bad guy.
I'll be darned. Burn 'em Up Barnes.
Burn 'em Up Barnes.
Burn 'em Up Barnes. Jewell, are there any people in particular that you'd like to thank at this time?
Oh, my family's Al Hall, like I say, he was my buddy.
Yeah.
And me and him were together every night for 30 years.
Right.
And he's my number one friend, I'll tell you that. He died in 2012. Al Sweeney taught me a lot. Lots of things.
Right.
And I was up there one night, and his wife, Brunch, she used to score. Yeah. It was an old dusty track 30 years ago with 12 cars. So she'd always get after me. The reason I got that job out there, we ran our first modified race in '54. He had 3 scorers, and they couldn't handle it. They said, "We can't do this."
Oh, really?
No, especially the ones we started at night. And she's always after me. "I don't see how you see these cars. I don't this." And so one night she's starting that stuff on me up there, and I said, "Brunch, I'm going to tell you something. I memorize them."
Yeah, you were telling me
And
that.
she said, "There's nobody can do that." And Al came over and put his hand on my shoulder and said, "He can." But I tell you what, night after night, the modifieds, when they stick that nose out of that number 4 turn, they were all different.
Yeah.
And I knew every one of them.
You knew you could identify each car just from the nose.
And we used to bring midgets down, or they used to bring midgets down to St. Louis at the Jeff City track.
Yeah.
And the old man there was in charge of them. He'd always come up there at the judge's stand. He said, "My score didn't show up tonight. You think you could help me out?" And I said, "Why, sure."
Why, sure.
I mean, I just did the midgets like the rest of them. I didn't charge him or have him want to pay me or something. But he always did that.
Yeah. Jewell, it's been a real pleasure, man, just talking with you. I mean, this is the second time we've talked.
Yeah.
And
well, I'm glad, Mike, you're doing a good job, and I appreciate you coming down here and letting me talk.
Absolutely.
Now, the bad thing about this is that you didn't let me get in my next 3 hours. I've seen things.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
It would be nice if we could do that.
I saw an old boy when we had the old junkers over at Sweet Springs, and he rolled this old 39 Buick or something. And he got thrown out. On the middle of the track, this thing was rolling. Here comes all the cars, and I just looked, and he started crawling. And he looked like a rabbit. He crawled like you can't believe over to the infield. And nobody hit him.
Nobody hit him. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
Jewell, congratulations again, buddy, on being inducted into the Carb Hall of Fame for 2020. Like I say, it's a real privilege.
Well, I really appreciate it, and always thought you had to be a driver to get in there. For years, that's all I thought.
Yeah, me too.
Little Karen.
Yeah.
Karen, she used to ask me about scoring. She sat up there in the grandstand, and sometimes she'd come down there after the race or something and ask me some stuff about scoring. I'm going to tell you one more thing. We got time?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Me and Al went up to a AAA stock car race at Lakeside Stadium, and it was the old stadium.
The old one.
And the first race I think they ever had, the guy had steel boiler plate around that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the fence. You're talking about the fence.
Yeah.
Yeah, steel boiler plate. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Joe Bush said, "You guys come up here and I'll get you a little cheap job," and it was $15 a piece, and said, "You can help score." And they had one thing that I had never seen before. They had a deal up there. You could see first 4 numbers. You know how they were running.
Yeah.
So Al did that. So they had 3 scores. So I sat down away from them. So I scored this 100-lap race. Okay. And I was walking down to give this guy my see Joe, and I said, Joe, here's my lap sheets. I'm going home. I just wanted the guy to have them. So I was walking down there, and they start reading off the finish. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Didn't match yours, huh?
So I went on down there, and I could tell a bunch of drivers were unhappy. And they were mumbling, carrying on. So I finally found Joe, and I said, here, give these lap sheets to this guy. You know, I did what I got my $15 for. Okay. And so the next week at Warrensburg, he came down to collect insurance. Well, he drove in there, and he had the biggest old grin on his mouth. And I said, what the hell's the matter with you? He said, I'll tell you in a minute. So he parked his car, come back, and he said, they had such an argument up there. He says, I got out your lap sheets, give it to the guy that pays. Not one guy. They said, now you're talking.
Yeah. Reputation.
Hey, they had dozens of IndyCar drivers. Paul Goldsmith and Terry Bittenhausen, all these big
Probably
guys.
Judd Larson.
No, Judd wasn't driving stock cars then.
Oh, that's right.
But they had, the guy from Alabama.
You got me there. I don't know.
A famous driver. Darn it! How come I can't think of his name? I've got it in here somewhere. But anyway, he would win races. They started the Grand National circuit, and there would be 10 or 12 cars there. You know, and back and then some of them drove them to the tracks.
Wow.
Yeah, they stop at a gas station, get some free oil and stuff, and talk to them. But anyway, they where am I at now?
Talking about the stock car races, like I said.
Stock car races. I'm going to tell you something now to kind of missed it. Well, anyway, I'll tell you about Gene Jennett, and everybody knows Gene Jennett. I like for him to come and see me with his teeth. Boy, he acted like a tiger when he had them teeth. Anyway, we started the modified race at the fairgrounds Saturday night and state championship. We went into the first turn and we had a wreck. One turned over and it was a mess. So he takes off on the mile track. So I watched him, you know, and he went around there. You could barely see him. And then when he went down the back straights, I could just see his helmet, you know, the white helmet. And he went down all the way, and I mean, he was flying. And so I told Al Swinger, I said, you want to see something funny? He said, what's that? I said, you see them record drivers and all of them leaning up against their trucks? I said, keep your eye on them. He come through there between a motor grader and started to boom, and about scared them guys.
Oh, I bet he did.
To pieces.
Yeah.
I like Gene.
He was a nice guy, real character.
One time I came up on a 32 5-window coupe, which I thought I'd make a hot rod out of. And naturally, $1 an hour, I couldn't make nothing out of nothing. But finally, Art Dissinger, the guy that had his car, I don't know, anyway, they came to me and said, I heard you had a, 32 coupe. And I said, I do. He said, what do you want for it? And I said, $40. I give $15 for it. And he said, we'll be down and get it. A couple of weeks later, we came out, I think it was still at the fairgrounds. Finally, we had 2 races one weekend, and the next weekend we'd run a junior championship with the people that didn't win. But they brought that car down there. Boy, it was beautiful. He always had this great looking cars. Absolutely. I liked him, Jim, or Dissinger.
I'm going to wrap it up, Jewell. Congratulations, like I say, on being...
Yeah, you got to go home.
Inducted into the Car Hall of Fame, buddy. It's been a pleasure talking to you and interviewing you, buddy.
You didn't get around all these trophies.
That's going to do it, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. We will see you. Thank you, Jewell.
Yeah.